Her name is Elaris Veyne. She has not been seen by sunlight in 2 years. She exists between the walls inside the ancient passage system that runs through Blackridge Hollow like a second skeleton beneath the stone. She knows every corridor by the vibration it sends through the soles of her bare feet. She knows every room by the heartbeat inside it. She knows which servant carries blood vials by the smell of the wax seal on the glass iron rich, faintly sweet, the particular warmth of blood that has been kept at the right temperature. She steals what she needs, never too much, never enough. She has been starving herself into something for 2 years, and she is not yet sure what that something is. She whispers to herself sometimes, to keep the silence from swallowing her whole. Names of things she remembers, the color of her mother's dress at the last dinner before the fire, the sound of her grandmother's voice in the dark, low and certain, pressing something into the space behind Elaris's sternum, like a key being fitted to a lock she didn't know she had. Her grandmother had taken her into the walls of a different manor when she was 7 years old. She had said, "If the night ever comes for us, go between the walls. The dark will recognize you. Let it." Elaris had thought it was a story. It was instructions. She knows things now that she cannot explain. She hears heartbeats through 3 feet of solid stone. She smells blood from rooms she has never entered. She dreams, sometimes, of tearing open the soft throat of something warm, and wakes up with her hands pressed flat against the passage wall, breathing hard, grateful for the cold. She is not entirely human anymore. She has known this for some time. She has been refusing to examine it the way you refuse to press on a wound that is still healing. But tonight, the hunger is louder than her discipline. She follows a blood vial trail deeper than she has ever gone through a corridor she has avoided for months, because the stone here feels different, alive, almost, watchful. The passage narrows, then opens, and the wall at the end is not stone. It is a door that forgot it was a door. She presses her hand to it. It opens. The room beyond is a study, ancient, candlelit, filled with books that predate the printing press and ritual maps drawn on something that is not paper. A stone basin sits in the corner, full of something dark that is not blood, but smells related to it, related the way a shadow is related to the thing that casts it. Thorne Calder Valecrest is already there, sitting, still, a book open in his hands. He does not look up when she falls through the door. He simply says, his voice as unhurried as something that has been waiting centuries for this exact moment, "I wondered when you'd find this room." A pause. The candles do not flicker. "I've been leaving the vials closer every week." He finally looks up. His eyes find her in the dark without any effort at all, the way something ancient looks at something it has already catalogued, already considered, already decided about. His expression is not hunger. It is not surprise. It is recognition. "You've been starving louder than you think, little ghost. The walls have been singing your heartbeat to me for over a year." He closes the book. "I think it's time you came out. If you want to know what he's been waiting for, subscribe and turn on notifications. This story goes places you are not ready for." He gives her a room, not a guest room, not a servant's quarters. He gives her the room at the geometric center of the wall passage system, the original containment chamber built by the manor's first architect centuries before Thorne inherited these walls. It has been empty since before he arrived. It responds to her the way a room responds to someone it was built for. The walls are warmer here. The stone doesn't feel dead. She tells herself it is her imagination. He gives her blood measured, precise, always slightly less than what she wants, and always slightly more than what she needs. She understands, eventually, that this is intentional, that he is keeping her at a specific level of hunger the way a craftsman keeps a blade at a specific temperature, not cold enough to be brittle, not hot enough to lose its shape. She files this away too. He is not afraid of her. This is the most disorienting thing about him. She has spent 2 years being the thing in the walls that everyone is afraid of, without knowing what they are afraid of. She has learned to exist in that fear, like a fish exists in water. It is simply the medium she moves through. But Thorne looks at her the way someone looks at a fire they built themselves, with attention, with something that is almost proprietary. She doesn't like it. She doesn't stop watching him watch her. He teaches her control the way someone teaches another person who already knows but has not yet believed in their own knowledge. The hunger doesn't disappear, he tells her one evening, seated across from her in the candlelit study where she first fell through the door. You don't defeat it. You build a room around it. You become the room. You decide who gets the key. She watches him demonstrate controlled, precise, nothing wasted. The way he feeds is almost architectural. She should find it monstrous. Instead, she takes notes. He tells her small things about the manor's history. Not everything. Not the parts that matter yet. But enough for her to understand that Blackridge Hollow was not built as a home. It was built as a vessel. Designed around a purpose that the original architect never wrote down. Because some purposes are too large for language. She listens to everything and asks almost nothing. She saves the question she most wants answered for later, the way she once saved the last drop of blood in a stolen vial for the hour before dawn when the hunger was worst. His name for her in these weeks is always Little Ghost. She hates it. She has started listening for it specifically. His most trusted servant is a woman called Veyne. She has been with Thorne for 60 years, sharp, careful, warm, in the way that very precise people are warm, because they have decided to be, and they do not decide things lightly. She brings Elaris blood at exactly the right temperature without being asked twice. She tells her small stories about the manor in the old days, when the cliff above Gravesend Reach had a different reputation. They used to say the manor protected the town, Veyne tells her once, setting down the blood vial with a careful hand. Before fear replaced the story, Elaris watches her leave. Something about the warmth is slightly too deliberate. She files this away too. She has become very good at filing things away. She does not know that in the same week Veyne tells her this, a letter leaves Blackridge Hollow by a route Thorne does not monitor. 2 words, written in careful ink. She's real. The crisis comes without warning, the way crises always do when they have been quietly building for months. Blood stores go missing. A servant is found drained. The evidence is circumstantial and damning, and points, unmistakably, toward the newest resident of Blackridge Hollow. Thorne's guard captain stands in the grand hall and lays out the case with the flat certainty of someone who has always preferred simple explanations. There is a creature in this manor that is out of control, and it needs to be removed or destroyed. Thorne listens to all of it. Then he says, quietly, finally, she stays. Later, alone with her, he finally says what she has been waiting to hear him say since the night she fell through the door. I knew you were in the walls within the first month, he tells her. I left the vials because you were starving wrong, feeding just enough to survive, not enough to change. I needed you to keep changing. She is very still. You managed me. Yes. Like an experiment. He pauses, and the silence that follows is the most honest thing he has given her yet. At first, he says, she demands the truth, the full truth. He gives her what he knows. She was not turned by chance during the massacre of her family. She was turned by something already living inside her blood. A dormant seed, planted before she was born, designed to activate under exactly the conditions she survived. Extreme trauma, prolonged starvation, isolation that stripped away every social layer a creature can have, until nothing was left but the thing underneath. She is not a turned vampire. She is a cultivated one. Someone engineered her. The silence that follows is a different kind than before. Then, because she is Elaris Veyne, and 2 years in the dark have made her extremely precise about physical sensation, she presses her hand flat against her own chest. A heartbeat. Slow. Impossible. Hers. How long have I had a pulse? She asks. Since the 3rd month, he says quietly. I didn't tell you because I didn't understand what it meant yet. And now? Now I understand exactly what it means. Tell me, it means someone is going to come for you. Don't go anywhere. The worst is not the villain coming for her. The worst is what's already inside the manor. Like this video, and keep watching. The infiltrator arrives 3 nights later. He is not just a hunter from Gravesend Reach. He is a commissioned one, paid specifically to confirm a single thing. Is the Veyne girl alive? He has been given a name, a description, and a destination. He has not been given any information about what she has become, because the person who hired him does not want him to have any reason to hesitate. Elaris finds him in a lower corridor before Thorne does. His heartbeat is so loud to her, so human, so warm. She has been careful for so long, so measured, so precisely calibrated, and the hunger she has been building a room around for months kicks the door clean off its hinges. She is on him before she decides to move. She stops herself. Just before. Not just before Thorne arrives, just before she finishes it. She stops with her hand at the hunter's throat, and her own heartbeat hammering in her ears, and the hunger screaming, and she chooses. She opens her hand. He falls. Thorne arrives in time to see the aftermath. He gets the hunter out. He returns to find Elaris standing in the corridor, with blood on her hands, not much, barely any, and her eyes very clear. She is not shaking because of what she almost did. She is shaking because of what she understands now. She chose. She is something that can choose. Thorne looks at her for a long time, and in his eyes, ancient, controlled, not afraid she sees something she has not seen there before. He tells her everything. The original architect of Blackridge Hollow. The passage system built not as corridors, but as a containment design, built to hold something that stone and iron alone could not hold. The prophecy etched into the deepest foundation stone, in a language older than the manor itself. One will come through the walls already turning. Do not stop her. Do not finish her. Let her hunger teach her what blood cannot. He tells her the architect was her grandmother's maker, that the Veyne bloodline has been known to the oldest of the vampire world for 3 centuries, that Thorne inherited this manor and this instruction simultaneously, and spent centuries wondering if the prophecy was literal or metaphor, and has spent the last 2 years discovering it is neither. It is a blueprint. She listens to all of it. Then she asks the question that silences him completely. The prophecy says, let her hunger teach her what blood cannot. What does she learn, Thorne? What is she supposed to become? He doesn't answer. Which is an answer. The betrayal announces itself, not with drama, but with a sound, a deep structural groan from somewhere in the foundation of the manor, as if the building itself is exhaling something it has been holding for a very long time. The blood ward system, the one protection that has kept Blackridge Hollow sealed from outside vampiric intrusion for 3 centuries, goes silent. Elaris finds Veyne in the foundation corridor, her hand still pressed to the stone where the ward seals run. Veyne doesn't run. She turns. Her face is grief, without apology. A woman who has already made her decision, and is simply living in the aftermath of it. I didn't have a choice, she says. You don't know what he is. I know exactly what he is, Elaris says. He made me. No, she whispers. You think that's what this is. That's the lie he's been living for 200 years. He thinks he designed you. He didn't. Your grandmother spent a century trying to give you something he couldn't predict. Before she can say more, they hear footsteps in the main hall. Measured. Unhurried. The footsteps of someone who has never needed to hurry. Lord Halcroth Vire does not storm the gates of Blackridge Hollow. He walks through the front door, alone, dressed like a guest who was expected. He is beautiful in the way that very old, very dangerous things are beautiful, with the particular elegance of something that has not needed to adapt in a very long time because nothing has ever successfully threatened it. He surveys the grand hall with the calm appreciation of a collector examining a piece he has been waiting to acquire. He says, Elaris. He smiles. There she is, he says, his voice rich and warm and entirely wrong. "I was starting to think the walls had digested you." He walks toward her slowly. She does not move. She has her grandmother's stillness, the stillness of someone who has learned that stillness is not passivity. It is preparation. "Do you know what you are?" he asks. "I'm learning," she says. "Let me tell you what you are." He stops 5 feet away. "You are the most perfect thing I have ever built. 200 years of failed attempts, and your grandmother's blood finally delivered what I designed it to deliver." The room goes very still. "Your grandmother," Elaris says slowly. "You knew her." "I made her," Halcroth says, with the simplicity of someone stating a fact about the weather. "She was my first attempt. Imperfect. She ran. Spent a century trying to undo what I put in her blood. And when she couldn't, she hid it in her granddaughter instead. She thought she was protecting you, giving you a weapon." He tilts his head. "But the weapon was always mine. The design was always mine." Elaris's hands are very still. "She loved me," she says. "Yes," he says. "And there is something in it that might, in a different creature, be called genuine sadness. She did. She spent a century trying to give you a way out of what I started. There is no way out, little ghost. There is only what you are." She looks at him for a long moment. "Tell me what I am," she says. And something shifts in the room, because her voice is not shaking. "A vampire with a living pulse," he says. "Sunlight tolerant, undetectable, controllable, with the right." "Controllable," she repeats. She takes one step forward. 2 years in the dark, Halcroth. 2 years between stone walls, feeding on drops and silence, and my own slowly dying mind. You designed something controllable. Another step. What makes you think the walls built what you designed? She's about to show him exactly what 2 years in the dark made her. Don't leave now. Subscribe, so you never miss what comes next. The fight is not a fight. It is a demolition. She is faster than him because she is still partially alive, and living things move on instinct in a way the ancient undead have long forgotten. The body's urgency, the electric animal certainty of a creature that still has something to lose, is not a weakness. It is the oldest weapon in existence, and she has had 2 years to sharpen it against the stone. She is more brutal than him because 2 years of starvation and isolation and desperate, grinding survival have stripped away every layer of social performance a creature can accumulate. And what is underneath is not monster, it is will, pure, precise, undecorated. She is more controlled than him because she has spent 2 years learning the exact architecture of her own hunger. She knows every room in it. She knows which doors to open and which to keep locked. And she knows, with the intimate certainty of someone who has rehearsed this in the dark hundreds of times, exactly how much of herself to release and exactly when to close the door. Halcroth, for the first time in perhaps a century, is afraid, not of dying, of being wrong, of discovering that the thing he designed has escaped the design entirely. He was right that she is powerful. He was wrong that she is his. At the end, she holds him by the throat and looks at him the way someone looks at the fire that burned their home to the ground, with total, clear-eyed recognition and zero mercy. "My grandmother gave me a way out," she says quietly. "You're right. But it wasn't the heartbeat." She leans closer. "It was the 2 years she bought me." She finishes it. Not cleanly, not heroically, intimately and violently. The way you end something that has been a part of your story since before you were born. The heartbeat that fills the grand hall of Blackridge Hollow in the aftermath, slow, impossible, undeniable, is hers. In the corridor where the ward seals went silent, Veyne is still sitting when Elaris finds her. She did not run. She did not fight. She sits with her hands in her lap and waits for whatever comes next, with the particular stillness of someone who has spent a century being someone else's creature and is only now, in the absence of the thing that held her shape, beginning to feel the edges of her own. "He made your grandmother," Veyne says. "And your grandmother made you into something he couldn't predict. I've been his creature for 100 years. She looks up at Elaris. "Is there anything left in this world that can't be remade?" Elaris looks at her for a long time. "I'll let you know," she says finally. She leaves Veyne sitting there, not forgiven, not condemned, simply left to discover what she is now, that the thing holding her shape is gone. Thorne finds Elaris in the room at the center of the passage system. She is sitting in the dark. Not hiding, just sitting. Old habit, perhaps. Or perhaps the dark simply feels like home. He doesn't turn on a light. He sits across from her. "The prophecy," she says. "You never answered my question. What is she supposed to become?" He is quiet for a long time. "The prophecy doesn't say," he admits. "It ends where you began. It says, let her hunger, teach her. That's all. The Maker didn't know what you'd become either. He just knew something would. And you," she says. "You watched me for 2 years. What did you think I'd become?" A long pause. "I thought you'd become something I could explain," he says honestly. "Something that fit into a category I already had. And you became something I want to keep watching." The dark between them is very full. "Not protection," she says quietly. "Not control." "No," he agrees. "I don't need a place to hide anymore. I know, a beat, long enough for the weight of it to settle. But I might choose a place to stay." Neither of them moves. The heartbeat in the room slow. Impossible. Hers fills the silence, like music no one composed. Dawn comes to Blackridge Hollow. For the first time in the history of the manor, the front doors open from the inside at sunrise. Elaris Veyne steps out onto the cliff. The fog is still there. The coastal forest below is still wrapped in it. Gravesend Reach is visible at the base of the cliff, already stirring with morning life. Fishermen, lanterns, the ordinary, fragile warmth of people who do not know how close the dark comes to their edges. The sunlight hits her. She does not burn. She stands there in the gold and the fog, with the cliff at her feet and the manor at her back, and she takes one slow, deliberate breath. The breath of someone reclaiming something that was taken from them before they were old enough to know they had it. Then she turns, walks back through the open door, back into the dark. Not because it called her, because she chose to go back. The door closes. The heartbeat continues.